Welcome to another Reviewed for You Travels video. Countries hit hardest by poverty are often countries that are also caught in other crises, including conflict, hunger, and climate change. In this one we'll be showing you the list of the 10 fiscally poorest countries in the world, the factors that go into this ranking, and the factors that don't. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing and don't forget to like and ring the bell to be notified to our next video. Thank you, keep it groovy. At Concern, we go where we are needed most in our fight against extreme poverty. But where is that, exactly? And which countries need the most assistance? Unsurprisingly, the countries on our list are also countries hit hard by other factors, including disease, war and conflict, climate change, and extreme weather patterns like drought. These often become compounding factors that keep communities trapped in cycles of poverty. What determines the world's poorest countries isn't as clear-cut as dollars and cents. Before we get into the ranking list, let's look at how these rankings are determined. The human side of poverty aside, categorizing the poorest countries in the world isn't as simple as ranking total wealth. Data are often hard to come by in some of the most vulnerable countries. What's more, relying on the gross domestic product as a ranking factor doesn't account for all of a country's wealth. Even if we find a unifying metric, how do we account for exchange rates? The International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and Central Intelligence Agency all rank countries by their per capita GDP. Given the variables at play, however, these lists are all slightly different from one another. Ranking by GDP also means we're just ranking by production of a country versus its income. For the purposes of this ranking, we're going to focus on gross national income. We're also going to take things one step further by referring to the United Nations Development Programme's Human Development Reports. This ranks countries not only by their GNI, but also by the life expectancy at birth, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and their own Human Development Index value. With all of this in mind, here are the world's 10 poorest countries, in descending order. 10. Mozambique. Mozambique is a country rich in natural resources and has made great strides towards becoming one of Africa's fastest-growing economies. However, the country is still recovering from a 16-year civil war that began when it gained independence from Portugal in 1975 and ended in 1992. The 2018 UN Human Development Report estimates a gross national income (GNI) per capita of $1,093 and a life expectancy of 58.9. According to the World Bank's most recent estimate in 2014, over 46% of Mozambicans live below the poverty line. While it's anticipated that citizens will complete 9.7 years of schooling, the mean years of schooling completed is just 3.5. 9. Liberia. Africa's oldest republic, Liberia suffered from a series of civil wars between 1989 and 2003. While peace has now outlasted war, GNI per capita is a mere $667 with a life expectancy of 63. Liberia was also hit hard by the West African Ebola epidemic of 2014-16, which infected 10,675 Liberians and killed 4,809. The outbreak has had a lasting impact on the livelihoods of survivors. The World Bank's most recent survey of the country in 2016 estimated nearly 51% of the population living below the poverty line. While education is expected to last 10 years, most Liberians only complete 4.7 years of schooling. The needs are enormous, and Concern has been active in Liberia for 23 years working to offset the effects of poverty. This includes helping with clean water initiatives to support the 42.5% of Liberians without access to protected wells, nutritional programs to offset the 35.5% of children who are stunted, and initiatives against malaria and gender-based violence. 8. Mali. The fourth largest country on the African continent, Mali's capital of Bamako once flourished as a trading post. Today, however, the country, which gained independence from France in 1960, has a GNI per capita of $1,953 and a life expectancy of 58.5. Ongoing war and conflict mean that the mean years of schooling in the country is just 2.3, compared to an expected 7.7 years of schooling. The World Bank's most recent data from 2009 reveal that over 41% of the population lives below the poverty line. 7. Burkina Faso. Bordered by both Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso is another former French colony that has suffered conflict and coups following its independence in 1960. Drought has also plagued the country, resulting in a mean 1.5 years of schooling compared to the expected 8.5 years. Burkina Faso's GNI per capita is $1,650, with a life expectancy of 60.8. The World Bank's 2014 data indicate just over 40% of the population living in poverty. The hunger situation in Sierra Leone is classified as alarming according to the latest Global Hunger Index. Every fifth person is undernourished and half of the population faces food insecurity several months per year. 6. Sierra Leone. A UN peacekeeping mission helped to quell Sierra Leone's 11-year civil war in 2002. While the country's economy has grown in peacetime, it was one of the two countries hit hardest by the 2014 to 2016 Ebola epidemic alongside Liberia. The World Bank's most recent data predates this epidemic, with 2011 estimates indicating nearly 53% of Sierra Leoneans living below the poverty line. The country has a life expectancy of 52.2 years, with a GNI per capita of $1,240 and a mean years of schooling at 3.5. 5. Burundi. The Republic of Burundi has been in conflict consistently since gaining independence from Belgium in 1962. Culminating in civil war in 1994, the conflict has left nearly 65% of the population living in extreme poverty. Its GNI per capita is a mere $702, with a life expectancy of 57.9 years. Most children only complete 3 years of schooling, against an expected education of 11.7 years. 4. Chad. Despite a $4 billion pipeline that links the country's oil fields to coastline terminals, Chad is one of the world's poorest countries thanks to poor infrastructure and conflict, most notably from the militant group Boko Haram. Ongoing conflict and the effects of climate change mean that nearly 48% of Chadians live in a state of economic vulnerability, per World Bank data from 2011. The country's per capita CNI is $1,750 and its average life expectancy is 53.2 years. Most children receive a mean of 2.3 years of schooling. 3. South Sudan. The Republic of South Sudan gained independence in July 2011, but has experienced a long history of conflict, displacement, and deepening humanitarian needs. As of 2016, the World Bank estimates over 82% of the South Sudanese population are living in extreme poverty. While mean years of schooling are comparable to expected years, 4.8 and 4.9 years, respectively, life expectancy is just 57.3 years and GNI per capita is $963. Widespread displacement puts untold pressure on people's ability to cope, with over 2 million South Sudanese refugees living abroad and another 1.74 million internally displaced. 2. Central African Republic. Unsurprisingly, the world's hungriest country is also one of the poorest. In the 2018 Global Hunger Index, GHI, the Central African Republic was the only country with hunger levels classified as extremely alarming. The connection between hunger and poverty is apparent here. 2008 estimates from the World Bank suggest 62% of Central Africans are living at or below the poverty line, with the UN indicating a life expectancy of just 52.9 years. The country's GNI per capita is $663, with a mean of 4.3 years of schooling completed against the expected 7.2 years. Since early 2013, ethnic and sectarian fighting in CAR has developed from a silent emergency into a complex humanitarian crisis. Conflict has severely affected the livelihoods and living conditions of over half of the 4.6 million population. It's also forced over 500,000 citizens to flee to neighboring countries, and has increased the number of Central Africans in need by 13% since March 2018. The country also has one of the world's highest rates of child mortality. In mid-2014, concern began livelihoods, food security, water, and sanitation programs in Bangui and Ambelampoko prefectures to help those whose lives have been disrupted by violence. 1. Niger. A combination of a GNI per capita of $906, life expectancy of 60.4 years, and a mean 2 years of schooling lead to Niger topping the UN's Human Development Report as the world's poorest country. World Bank data from 2014 estimate 44.5% of the country's population of 21.5 million living in extreme poverty. Do you like our video? Let me know your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking the button above this video.